Hello, welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jacob of the Rise to Liberty podcast. Been on the show many times. He's also a regular or slash the producer on Already Dead. You know him. We'll be talking about the West Memphis 3 today. The reason why I wanted to cover this is because this is just one of those, seems like one of those topics in the parapolitical world that most people, when it does get talked about nowadays, you kind of just are assuming everyone knows what you're talking about, and everyone just kind of nods along. And I think there's actually a substantial amount of us that just kind of nod along and go, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And so that's what this show's for. We're going to do a little bit of 101 backing up. Who the fuck are the West Memphis 3? What the fuck is the West Memphis 3? We will answer these questions and more in this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hello, Jacob. Welcome back to the show. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
Doing all right. My hair's looking a little goofy today, so I have a little bit of complaints there, but otherwise we're doing all right. Pleasure to have you back on the show. It's been a while. I think we had was the false memory syndrome series we did. That was quite a long one. Recommend people go check that out. I think you've also written extensively about that over on your Substack. But today we're talking about the West Memphis 3. I saw you were covering it recently, and I was that's one of those ones I kind of always meant to eventually get around to. Although I'll be honest, I kind of just like part of the reason why I've never really dug into it is just something. I don't know if it's a branding thing. I don't know what. Maybe it's just that everyone always talks past each other when we talk about this. Because like I said, it's kind of almost assuming, and like the little bits of tidbits I get, I struggle to get interest. So I guess maybe seemingly enough people have gone super interested in the story, so I feel like maybe I'm missing something. Maybe whatever little salacious bit. I mean, we actually were talking before the show. This actually surprisingly is one of these stories you would think maybe would be in more books, but actually doesn't show up in some of them. For example, like Program to Kill. This seems like almost a perfect example of something to show up in that book. But not quite, since I guess they technically weren't serial killers, so they didn't quite fit the mark for that book. But I guess, anyways, just kind of we'll start off with Jacob. Who the fuck are the West Memphis 3? What is the West Memphis 3?
So the West Memphis 3 is actually, three now men. But at the time one of them was a man at the time of the crimes, and the other two were almost men. So we're talking about, of course, three former teenagers: Damien Echols, Jessie Misskelley Jr., and Jason Baldwin. And in May of 1993, three 8-year-old bodies showed up after a full night of basically this entire town not being able to find these three missing boys. Mind you, 8 years old, right? Like little kids. And so, long story short, which we'll get into, all three of these now men, now convicted twice of murdering those three boys, these now men are out walking out and about, free as a jaybird. But they were convicted officially twice. So to me, it's frustrating because, well, once you look into exactly what is going on with this case, you realize that anyone that tells you that they're innocent either is lying to you, so they have some sort of motive, or they've actually never looked into it. And that's a massive problem, because one of the big reasons that they were actually released from jail after being convicted, the leader of the gang, Damien Echols, he was actually sentenced on death row. So he was actually going to, be murdered by the government because of the evidence that they had against him. Jessie Misskelley and Jason Baldwin were both going to spend life in prison. So it's not so like simple that they're out. It's actually a really big deal. But the reason they were let out is because HBO made a trio of documentaries. They're called Paradise Lost. It's actually almost everyone's introduction to the case.
Isn't that one of the name of Dante's Inferno's books?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, well that's because obviously that's an odd choice. But anyways, I'm probably meant to do it, but yeah.
It's a certain type of people coming from Hollywood making these films to begin with. So, and if you watch the documentaries too, and that's all you watch, they are innocent. The narrative that was pushed after these documentaries came out. So just to give a little bit of a timeline, the boys disappeared May 5th, 1993. They were found May 6th in the early afternoon. It took about a month before these three boys were arrested and taken into custody. Their trials were, mid 1994. And then the first HBO documentary, Paradise Lost, didn't come out until 97, I believe. So just kind of like a frame of reference. So they were already in prison by the time that they were doing this, although I assume they were making it before because they have a lot of court footage in the documentary. A lot of court footage that I was trying to find, but apparently HBO has got that on lock, so I'm going to have to go pirate it.
So the first documentary was around like 95-ish. I mean, maybe mid 90s. I maybe I get the exact date. So, and then I vaguely I never really watched any of these, but I remember there being kind of a big hubbub. Maybe like 10-ish years ago. So I'm assuming maybe the last one was more recent. So it was perhaps maybe I'm reaching here. Obviously, I don't know. When was the last documentary you created? Because that would be what I'm curious. Because I'm already kind of seeing this, and maybe I'm big picturing it. Satanic panic's always a thing, and you even kind of alluded to there the idea that they have all this court footage and stuff,
right?
And like the crafting of the shifting of the narrative, and this seems to be a very key component of that whole. If you are to look at that era as time as some inversion conspiracy, essentially the idea of like, ooh, it's a satanic panic, and now we have to make it look like this. This would be a very much like a feather in the cap of this. This kind of this working along the legal roads, essentially kind of through the media, kind of perfectly timed, it seems like, almost, and managing to actually get one out. So, I mean, from a changing public opinion, especially like a whole ass era, that would be pretty important because now you actually have a substantive thing to point to. You have three people who were able to get rid of these convictions. Someone came off of death row. Kind of a big deal. Right. I mean, does that because I can't think of any other case of satanic panic thing of like something that's 180 to this degree. I mean, obviously you have ones where like it didn't end up going through, but like we kind of.
I mean, the closest thing is McMartin.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like they didn't like that was like it just didn't end up like going. Whereas this one they got convicted and then literally just then got on like everything. So like I don't know. Yeah.
No. This is one of my issues with the whole West Memphis 3 case is that the narrative that's pushed is that these boys were just they were profiled by local police. They were profiled by the townsfolk because they lived, in the Bible Belt. I mean, we're talking West Memphis, Arkansas, in the early 90s. Okay. I mean, this is an area where, they live below the poverty line. Most jobs are not that great to begin with. And it's kind of like the way that the town is situated. It's west of Memphis, Tennessee, right across the Mississippi River. And the way that the interstates work is there's 3 interstates that kind of like merge right there. And so it's a great place to stop as a trucker, but everyone's always going through town. Nobody ever stays in town.
Liminal space. That's what they're called.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's just, I mean, it's a gorgeous area in the sense that, if there were no, human structures around, big old semis driving by all the time, the wilderness would be great. But it's kind of a shithole, and not through any one particular person's fault for that, but it is what it is. A lot of trailer parks, right? So that kind of gives you an idea of the type of people that you're dealing with. So to answer your question, so the first documentary, Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills, released in 1996. So this is like at the height of false memory syndrome foundation. This is like socially, everyone's over the hump. They're sick of hearing about Satanism. Everyone's like, there are no Satanists. Stop saying it. You look crazy. So it's like culturally right there at that point. This documentary comes out and pushes it right over the edge. And now it's to the point where you mention something like that, you're a conspiracy theorist, that went the way of, iron lungs, I guess, all because of this documentary. It is a beautiful piece of propaganda. And the reason why is it's whoever made it definitely knew exactly what they were doing. They left out the exact right key information. So they're not giving you the full story of any of this. They're framing certain things in a way that would make you subconsciously think about things. Like there's one scene that comes to mind. One of the stepdads of the little boys who died, they shot him in the cemetery visiting his dead stepson. And it was, I think, during Christmas time. And so there was a Christmas ornament. It was a star. The shadows were coming in from the sun, hitting the star and projecting a pentagram right on his head. And it's just like those little filmmaking tricks that kind of build, which they do. And by the time they reveal the idea that, oh, maybe we should be looking at the stepdad, you're already subconsciously sold. That's the motherfucker who did it. Like it is for anyone who doesn't like know how these things work, you would never even know. That's why so many people, when they saw this documentary, got upset, and it reached so far. I mean, massive celebrities were involved in, the outrage that, these 3 boys who their only crime was wearing Metallica t-shirts and listening to heavy metal. That's it. That was the narrative. It's still the narrative, actually. It's the most absurd thing, because all you have to do is look past the documentaries. All you have to do is look at the pictures, the timeline, anything from the court documents, like use your brain at all. And you soon realize that the narrative that these now men, convicted murderers who are men walking out and about, It's so much more than them just wearing Metallica t-shirts and being a little weird in a traditional Christian Bible Belt town.
All right, well, let's take it back to the crime, and I guess whenever flesh back any of these things, we usually look at the official narrative. This one's a little bit weird because then we have the official narrative, and then at some point, the official narrative kind of sort of no longer becomes the official narrative. And obviously, like the royal official narrative, not like some like literal official like police whatever, but just kind of the colloquialism of the official era at the time, which is it's shifted. So we're almost going to go through different shifts, but it kind of start off, I guess, the crime. You said 3 bodies showed up, boys, 3 young boys, 8-year-olds. Now, you had mentioned before we started that McGowan didn't include this in his book because they weren't considered serial killers, but where I see 3 bodies. I don't know if maybe perhaps if you attribute 1 body to each one of the supposed suspects, maybe that's where you get it's not a serial killer if you only got 1 each. I mean, I don't know. That'd be the only thing. Like, is you like 1 killing? It does not make a serial killer. So I guess before we get into like what's the official narrative of what happened there, and by official narrative I mean at that time, like what was the understanding?
Right.
Obviously, that's going to get whiplashed as we move further in this. But yeah, just kind of what was the understanding of the situation?
So the reason they're not a serial killer is because a serial killer will kill 1 or a few people at a time, and then they have a cool down period, and then it builds back up. They commit murder again, and then they keep going in that cycle. And then you have like spree killers, which will basically do what like a school shooter will do, but many times, right? They're just like little sprees. They're like spazzing the fuck out, but doing the worst thing possible by taking someone's life. And then of course you have, mass shooters, which attack 1 event, which is funny. I actually just read a whole thing about that today. Okay. So as far as this case itself, so to put it simply, on May 5th, 1993, 3 8-year-old boys, Stevie Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore, went missing in the early evening hours in West Memphis, Arkansas. Their bodies were found the next day submerged in basically a farm runoff system, like a canal. It says creek here, which is why I'm correcting it. In a park-like area known as Robin Hood Hills. About a month later, 3 suspects, Damien Echols, Jason Baldwin, and Jessie Misskelley, were arrested and charged with their murders. All 3 were convicted in early 1994. Baldwin and Misskelley received life sentences while Echols was sentenced to death. On August 19th, 2011, the 3 men were released from prison after entering an Alford plea, meaning that they pled guilty but did not admit to the act. It also means that officially, they meaning these 3 child murderers, had to acknowledge that the state had more than enough evidence to convict them, but also at the same time allowing them to make a claim of innocence. I'm not quite sure why this exists, but an Alford plea is almost never used. The largest reason this was used is because of public pressure from Hollywood. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars. But this is one of the weird aspects of this case. So just to finish this off real quick, meaning that they pled guilty but did not admit to the act, and they are allowed to maintain their innocence. In return, they were sentenced to time served and set free. So that's really the, I guess the elevator pitch. If that makes sense.
That's weird. Yeah, that doesn't seem like that definitely seems like a legal hookup if you ever did see one.
Right.
I mean, the idea that you could just essentially get off scot-free by saying, I'm not going to admit that I'm guilty, but I will admit that you guys have a lot of evidence on me. And oh, okay, cool. You can go home now. That seems a little bit
Well,
odd to me.
So it is odd. It does make sense, from a government standpoint when you start looking at it, why they made that decision, and largely it comes down to money. Uh, those three child murderers had almost unlimited money. And so they had some of the best lawyers in the world. I mean, Damien Echols hangs out with Johnny Depp, has a matching tattoo with him, which is really weird, especially when you know some of the people that Johnny Depp runs with. It's even stranger. Peter Jackson actually made a documentary for them, after those three Paradise Lost ones were finished. It's called West of Memphis. I mean, Peter Jackson, right? Like, what a huge name. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars potentially. Actually, nobody really knows, I guess, outside the lawyers, exactly how much they have in their war chest, but they were ready to go to legal war to fight this. So the negative publicity that it was bringing down, the fact that the state of Arkansas actually has limited money, not unlimited, sympathy dollars from Hollywood, and their hands were kind of tied. Now, I'm not saying I agree with it, because I don't. I would have said, screw that. We are not letting three people who we've already convicted once have enough evidence to convict them again, just walk free, because that turns them into an accessory.
Mm-hmm. And now you said Echols. You only mentioned two of them, right? So I'm assuming the third person is Echols. So I'm assuming he had a different path for freedom with him. I'm assuming.
No, so all three of them were released at the same time.
Oh, for some reason I kept hearing two in my head, and that's what I was thinking back. And I knew he was substantively different in the fact that he had the death penalty thing. But then again, I don't know. There's you're dealing with so many different charges. It's always hard to keep track.
Right.
Though.
Well, and it's weird because Jason Baldwin and Damien Echols were actually charged together, and Jessie Misskelley was initially charged separately.
All right. Well, I guess let's back up and go to the crime. We figured out how they went to legal war and just kind of wore them down, and eventually they were able to get off. But I guess going back to the crime, they already got convicted before. What kind of evidence are we looking at? How damning is it that these guys did this crime? I mean, it's supposed to be beyond a reasonable doubt or whatever. If we're especially convicting someone of some of the most heinous crimes in the world.
Right.
They were able to convict. So if we're going to look at our legal system through romantic 1776 eyes, one would think that they almost certainly committed the crime. So I would assume there must be ample evidence to convict. I mean, but then again, I've read enough. Read enough court shenanigans to see that all sorts of things can happen when you get into the legal system. But yeah, I mean, just under normal conditions, you'd assume they definitely did it. So, what kind of evidence are we looking at here?
So, there's something like everyone needs to know about this case, and I think this is why it's so easy. Well, for one, most people get disinterested. Two, it's easy to hide things, at least it was. I don't think it's that easy at all to hide the truth of this case anymore. But this case there's so many layers to it, because we're discussing the murder of three people by three people. Like it's complicated enough with one person murdering one person, let alone 3 on 3. And then we are also discussing a community that is going to protect itself. And so you have like these factions of people protecting one side, although if they were innocent, why protect them? And then you've got the other, you've got law enforcement trying to figure out what happened, because you have 3 sets of families demanding that something be done about this. It's a nightmare. It truly is a nightmare. So there's a lot to build upon this. Okay, it's not just here's the smoking gun, here's the person that was holding it, there you go. Right? It's not Clue. There's multiple data points in which you have got to build upon, which as a researcher has made this incredibly difficult, especially because most information that comes out or is presented is kept on websites is usually leaning towards one, are they guilty or innocent? It always leads to them being innocent. However, real quick plug, Abomination from William Ramsey, a mandatory piece of library equipment. At least that's how I've been treating mine lately. Some information you can't find on the net because people like to scrub it, but to get into it, let's see. I know I have this marked. Okay, so there's a couple of. All right, the first thing I think that should be noted. Where are they? Come on. So this happened. Okay, so once again, the boys went missing May 5th. Their bodies were found the afternoon of May 6th. Immediately when they were found, about 1:30 p.m., immediately the investigation starts. They start canvassing the area. They start handing out questionnaires. They're literally doing everything they can. So this is one of the first problems, because one of the first things that's said is, well, cops didn't really care. And this is why the boys got blamed for it, because the cops weren't doing their job. So they let the real killer get away. That's so far from the truth. It's honestly disgusting. There's a suspect list. Like, it is incredibly long. It shocked me how long it was. I thought that there was like 10. No, there's like 60. So they went through so many avenues before they landed on the people they landed on. Let's see here. So one of the very first things that they did, and this is going to be an important piece of data later. Once they found the boys, in fact, do you want me to go through like how the boys were found, all of that detail?
Whatever you feel like is pertinent. I'm in no particular rush. So, but whatever you feel like is pertinent for laying out, that these guys are clearly the ones that did it. Since obviously, right. I think a lot of this is kind of held up on that. If you kind of, because the whole deal is later. Then just kidding, it got out. So if we are on shaky right. evidence, then it is like, well, this looks like the justice looks like justice prevailing. If this right. was shaky evidence to begin with.
Right. So. Let's see. 3 victims, all 8 years old. All 3 of them were found bound, which is incredibly strange. But the way in which they were bound is even stranger, because the initial report said that they were hogtied, and that's not true. With shoelaces, I believe the kids' own shoelaces. They were tied from ankle to wrist on each side. So left wrist to left ankle, right wrist to right ankle. And that's incredibly uncommon at crime scenes. Now, another piece of evidence that's interesting about this is that there were 3 different knots used on each victim, which indicates 3 people, or somebody who's incredibly unplanned. However, it doesn't make sense that you're just randomly killing 3 boys without a plan. It's possible, but there were 3 different knots. So each boy, when they were found, those wraps on them were tied 3 different ways. Michael Moore, one of the 3 8-year-olds, was found 30 feet away from the other 2. So it seems like he tried to make a go for it. The time of death is incredibly difficult to determine, regardless of the case, but especially in this case, because the bodies were sunk under the water for quite a while, actually. In fact, I can quickly bring up these pictures just to give you kind of an idea of what we're talking about here. So, oh, come on. So the area in which they were found, I think, is actually kind of important to talk about just quickly, because what's interesting is that this is like a temporary area, okay? So what you're looking at, the thing that goes like across the river in the center of your screen is actually like 2 pipes next to each other. This is like a canal, like a temporary canal during, spring runoff.
Yeah, because real quick, I'm not originally. I was born in Maine, but I lived in Tennessee like through high school, and like I'm assuming what you're probably about to lay out is, I mean, I don't know exactly what time of year this is, but I mean, especially
May.
certain types or times of the year. The creek, the creek rose, the creek's down. So if you are doing irrigation and you're trying to cut through there, you're going to be using very big varying degrees of water. So it does make sense you would have temporary structures in the way that you're laying out, essentially. So I'm assuming that would probably have something to do with why this is a temporary structure. I mean, there's literally a creek right here, and I would assume that this probably rises and falls quite a bit depending on the given year,
Right. In fact, most of the year, this area will not have any water at all. The only reason it has any water at this point in time is because, I mean, from this position, I mean, the Mississippi River is a quarter mile away, it's not directly connected to any of this, but if the Mississippi River floods, everything that can hold water is going to hold water. I mean, this entire area, this entire city is built on old swampland. So kind of fitting, honestly. But it held water at this point. This is early May, so we're talking high river levels. And that's going to fluctuate all time of the year. But at this particular time, it was filled full of water. So when the boys were found, their bodies were submerged, like all the way. I can't remember the exact details if like something was weighing them down, or I believe some like sticks were wedged, and they were able to stay under the water until one of the search party officers actually found a shoe. And as soon as the shoe was found, they started finding the boys themselves. And then it was all hell broke loose from there. So, let's see here. Okay, so here's kind of an idea. Like I said, one of the boys were incredibly far away, about 30 feet away from where the other 2 were found. Let's see.
Okay, so those X's are where the bodies were found?
Yes, sir.
And so there's, I'm assuming that lengthwise patch of woods there is probably where the stream runs through.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, like right in the center.
Yeah.
Let's see.
What is that structure? What are those? What's that structure to the side? It looks like some sort of garage, perhaps, of some sort.
So
Is
it's
what
a
that looks
truck
like.
wash.
Truck wash.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's a Blue Beacon truck wash.
Oh.
Hmm. Right,
Oh.
and this does come up in the alternative suspects. So there was one employee that got looked at. There was um, several other people that had passed through town that got looked at. There was a few people that actually were gone by the time anyone even knew to ask any questions in the first place. Um, so there's one, nobody knows his name, but he goes by the hitchhiker, or at least that's how he was labeled. Um, so I mean, there's all sorts of people. However, when you start looking at exactly what uh, what these boys got nailed for, basically, I can't think of a better way to put it. Let's see here. Make sure we're going right in order. So, um, time of death was uh, basically determined to be somewhere between like 6:30, 7:30 in the evening. The reason why that's important is because of where the West Memphis three were, or where they said they were, which that story changes multiple times. Um, Also, it does help determine how long the boys were down under there. Um, Now, what's interesting about the crime scene is there wasn't really any physical evidence. Now, this is one of the things that um, get pointed to um, by people who say that these guys are innocent. Well, there was no physical evidence. Okay, well, this is 1993. Okay. Um, DNA evidence is not as prominent then as it is now. Also, DNA evidence is not the linchpin of a legal case. Granted, it helps, and it in certain cases can be the determining factor in a legal case, but not everyone, not every time. So the fact that there was no physical evidence, and that's also not true. That is a complete lie. There is plenty of physical evidence. Um, there's plenty of physical evidence that gets ignored, um, but there is no DNA evidence that beyond a reasonable doubt says it was this person. Here's the smoking gun. But that's just not how DNA works, anyways. Um, Now, the crime scene was actually cleaned up. So whoever did do it um, had the wherewithal to be able to say, "Oh shit, we need to clean this up." What is interesting though is when the police came back, I believe later on the 6th, they tested the area with luminol. Once again, this is 1993. It's not as well understood as it is today. However, even after rains, even after it being cleaned up, the luminol made this entire area glow from all the reports. So, I mean, there's not much you can do removing specks of blood, especially if you can't see them. Let's see here. Let's make sure I got. Yeah, luminol positive for blood despite heavy rainfall, especially that evening. Let's see. Okay, so at this point, it's probably a good idea to focus on. Let's see. So police interviewed as many suspects as possible, working without breaks or much sleep. Tips of all sorts kept them busy, following leads, hitchhikers, school teachers, drifters, truck drivers, sex offenders, and well-known occultists. It's kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly when the occult come into this whole case. Everyone likes to point fingers. I like to look at the documents, and now there were some witness statements that were taken that mentioned, strange things, voodoo dolls, and strange men in robes being in Robin Hood Hills. There was one boy who gave a statement, said, "Oh yeah, I saw a bunch of like grown men walk into Robin Hood Hills." Oh yeah, when was that? 2 years prior to this incident. So there's a bunch of just like garbage statements like that, because they were literally talking to everyone. But where the occult comes in officially, from anyone who's taken seriously as a suspect, is Damien. And we'll get to that in just a sec. Let's see. So there was a place I would like to point out just real quick. At the Mayfair Apartments, lower rent complex adjoining Robin Hood Hills, residents repeated claims that Satan worshiping took place in the woods. Kids with black and red hair hang out there in Occult, one said. The apartment complex rests about 200 yards from the murder site and close to one of the pathways leading into the woods. After a day of collecting information from residents, the police heard similar accounts of devil worship by locals. So this area in general actually had a lot of child murders and child disappearances happening like for decades. I mean, once again, you have the conjoining of 3 separate interstates right where they are, which, I mean, if you know anything about the interstates and how dangerous they can be, how lots of murderers like to travel those interstates, then the fact that there's 3 interstates that join right there, I mean, they could take a kid, and by the time anyone noticed, I mean, that kid's, 2 states over.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Echols being a spooky boy. No, feel free to tell me if there's more you want to go into the realm of evidence, but it seems like for the purposes of our show, especially without maybe doing like an additional episode really breaking down the evidence, at least in a brief kind of like this, I feel like maybe, just maybe, that would be an area to pick at if I want to provide some sort of interesting tidbit for the audience of like, oh shit, this guy is looking pretty goddamn guilty. But like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. It seems like they always do try to characterize it as like, oh, he's just an edgy boy and likes edgy boy things and does all the edgy boy stuff. And, me and you both, I don't know. I mean, I think I kind of have a vibe of your past and mine as well. That is a thing. That is actually a thing as well. So like, while I was it sounds like I was being a little bit condescending or flippant about that concept. and a lot of like, I do see a lot of people do act like that's like ridiculous. And it is, and it's legit. I mean, I don't know. I'm currently an agnostic atheist who, and so I used to really, look deep into like the philosophy and be big into that sort of stuff. And there is like a Satanism through line that pops in there. And it really is just kind of edgy atheist. There is a component of that. And then even then in the rock world, which me and you are both fans of, that is like, obviously it's a staple of, and there's so much satanic imagery. It just kind of comes with the, I mean, hell, you could even see like Christian metalcore like art, and even it looks like kind of satanic. But if you start pulling away at the symbolism, a lot of times you'll be like, oh, it's actually an inversion of the Satanism there. But anyways, point being is that even very much on its face, it just kind of almost comes with the territory of that sort of music. So there is a lot to that idea of like, the whole satanic panic of like, I don't know, there is an angle, there's a dynamic. While there is also, I do think it's a mixed bag. I do think there is like there are elites speaking to each other through symbolism or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. I forget what it was. But anyways, Damien Echols and then maybe even the other two guys, are they just edgy boys, or is there something darker going on here?
Well, with Damien, there's very clearly something much darker going on. There were massive problems with him. I mean, long before this this murder case ever happened. I mean, let's see. So, I mean, this is him after prison. If you were accused of occult crime and that wasn't you were innocent, why would you get occult tattoos after?
Yeah.
Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg here.
Because he's so edgy, Jacob. He's like super duper edgy.
No, he's got to be super careful with all that edge so he doesn't cut himself.
Yeah. Which I will say, once you get into the tattooing game, like, to be fair though, I don't know what all these different symbols are. I'm sure if we picked at them, it might not be so great. But once you get in the tattoo game, it is a whole other level. Because I have like, I'm sure if I put there's like a Treyu shirt, I think I have a Falling in Reverse shirt. Like I have a few band shirts, and I'm sure if I looked at it, I could find some satanic symbolism. But I didn't tattoo it on me. Now, sure, maybe you could like find some examples of maybe certain album art where you're like, well, I tattooed this because I really like this band or this thing or that. And it's not because of the satanic imagery or whatever. But I think, once you get into tattooing, it's at a whole other level. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I have a fucking wolves and demons, fighting on this fucking sleeve. And that's just because I thought that'd be cool. I'm sure I could probably really extricate all sorts of symbolism out of that. Sometimes it's just like, well, that thing looks cool. But these are all little doodads and very distinct little symbolic little things. So I'm just saying, I don't know, once you get into the tattoo realm, it just seems like a whole other level of like, wow, now those symbols start to be maybe a little bit more specific, especially when they're as hyper specific as some of these symbols I can already kind of see in him. Like these look like some sigil type shit,
And I mean, that's exactly, what is going on here. So, I mean, at the time of the crimes, I mean, he's 18 years old. So he's a man. They want to portray all three of these, people as kids. No, he was a man. I mean, whether you agree with that being a man or not, it doesn't matter. He's legally a man. And it wasn't just like he turned 18 and then next week this happened, like, but at the time of the crimes, on his hand, across his knuckles, he had evil tattooed. In the center of his chest, had a pentagram tattooed. Granted, I've seen pictures of it, and it was shitty. It was really shitty. So whoever did it for him, probably himself.
I will say real quick, a pentagram is probably one of the few things that I'll give a little bit of a like caveat to that for like symbol, because it is like just kind of a ubiquitous kind of edgy. So like I know there's probably all sorts of people out in the world that have pentagrams that don't necessarily mean like I practice magic or whatever.
Right. But once again, this is what I'll say about this case. Any of these things by themselves are like you said, innocuous. So like so what, it's when you start putting it all together. So let's see here. So Sheila Stewart is a name that comes up a lot in the early investigation. She also stated that around October of 1992, there were several black males, I don't know why it has to go that way, but that were supposed to be involved in devil worshiping in Robin Hood area. She stated that her husband found dead sacrificed animals, which was a pretty common occurrence in this area. Still is, from what I understand. She stated that during the night, she could smell smoke and hear chanting and strange music coming from the area. She also said that 2 black males came out of the area one night wearing some type of green wrap in a hood, whatever the hell that is. So let's see. This is May 9th. Let's see. Just making sure I didn't miss anything before this. Let's see. Well, we can actually come back to this, but so May 9th, 1993, the police decided to bring Damien Echols into the police station for questioning. At noon, the interview began. Detective Ridge wrote down general information about Echols. 5'8", 175 pounds. He had several tattoos. Domini on his right arm, which is his girlfriend at the time. One of 4 girlfriends, mind you. And Domini was pregnant. A child in which Domini and Damien both discussed having in order to sacrifice, which is a confirmed conversation that happened. Let's see.
Haha.
Yeah. Oh, so edgy.
Just kidding. LOL.
Yeah. So let's see. Damien had several tattoos. Dominic on his right arm, the letters EVIL on his knuckles. Large pentagram was tattooed on the center of his chest. Echols also wore a necklace with a pentagram pendant. Damien Echols told detectives he dropped out of school in the 9th grade, but he passed his general education development exam.
He's getting too many pentagrams to just let it slide at this point.
Right. He stated to police that he was at home at the time of the murders. When asked about his cult activities, he confirmed he was part of a group that included local residents, Murray J. Ferris and Bob Loomis. Detective Ridge wrote in his notes, quote, he stated that his belief was there is no God, but there is a goddess. He stated everyone in the group worked towards a divine light. Upon reaching that stage, they become like gods themselves. He has been a member of this group for about 5 years at this point. Damien confirmed.
Is he given any sort of name for this? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But is he giving any sort of name for this group or anything? Because I'm noticing, and I've looked into enough little cults and stuff, and it's distinct to the goddess thing. So I'm just like, I remember O9A had a little bit of a weird affinity, if I recall correctly, for the chaotic feminine.
Right.
And it's kind of a common theme, although it's not always the case. They don't always necessarily have the feminine,
right.
But it's pretty common. It's a pretty common theme with some of these weird woo-woo whatevers. This obsession with the feminine, the chaotic feminine, or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And the thing is it's pretty common across just Satanism in general. It's not because the divine feminine is typically more evil.
Bitches be dripping.
Yeah. Right. Bitches always be tripping. So Damien confirmed he liked to read books, and one of his favorite writers was Church of Satan founder Anton LaVey, author of the Satanic Bible. According to Detective Ridge, Damien said, quote, he figured that he says this to a cop. He, meaning Damien, figured that the killer knew the kids went into the woods and even asked them to come out of the woods. Damien stated the boys were not that big, not smart, and they would have been easy to control. Damien also felt that the killer would not have been worried about anyone screaming due to being in the woods and close to the expressway.
Whoa. Okay, back up. So he's being I'm assuming being interviewed by the police, and he's giving him the OJ, like, writing a book years after the fact.
If I did it,
if I did it, like, just saying, just my professional opinion. If it was me doing this,
right?
Okay,
it gets better. Okay, mind you, he's in the police station. They're writing this down, and they recorded this, so this is confirmed. When asked by police who did the crime, Damien Echols responded with one word: Satanist. Okay, yeah, sure, fine, edgy joke, but what about all the other shit and all the shit coming? During questioning, Damien offered information to the investigators that only the killer would know. This is like a big tipping point for me. Surprisingly, he said that the murderers had urinated in the mouths of the three boys. This is incredibly important because at this point in time, this is May 9th, 1993, the medical examiners don't even understand that the boys were urinated on yet. There's no way of him having that. Either he is the luckiest guesser in the world, or he has prior knowledge.
I mean, it's awful, but something is like, I bet you they pissed into their mouth. Like, what? What a good guess. I mean, obviously, incredibly awful. This is, right. But Jesus Christ. Yeah, that is. I don't know how you get out of that one. I mean, I guess the other ones you go, LOL, weird meta jokes. The joke is that you are like, what the fuck? Like, that's the joke, you know? I mean, we can do that. I mean, you can do that, but I don't know how you squirrel out of the foreknowledge. Foreknowledge gets into a much more borderline inescapable region.
Right. So, I mean, either he was there, saw it, or he has interacted with somebody in between May 5th and May 9th. Either way, he's in deep shit, or at least you would think he would be. So the evidence was unknown to police at the time, and the medical examiners, because the autopsies weren't even done yet. They actually took quite a while because they wanted to be thorough. So at the time of this interview, and one would only be confirmed by the medical examiner after the completion of the autopsies. Damien also said that the penis was a symbol of power in Wicca, and that the number 3 was significant. He also stated that the person who committed the crime probably felt good about the murders, and it felt good that they had the power to do what they had done. Damien also stated that the more innocent the victim would be, the more powerful the perpetrator would have received from the sacrifice itself. So, I mean, that's fucked because these are 3 8-year-old boys. I mean, that's like the innocence cutoff right there. Yeah. I mean, that even gets covered in MK Ultra a lot. It's like if a programmer, gets a 9-year-old versus a 7-year-old, they're going with the 7-year-old because by 8, I mean, your personality is like cemented in place. There's certain things within yourself that will not change.
I can somewhat understand the dynamic that they're saying, though, too. It reminds me of that that devious impetus. I think we've probably all experienced it, especially I guess particularly me, especially where I had like a drug problem at one point. But we've all like lied, particularly to like a parent, or concocted a scheme or something. But I had a drug problem for a while, so I definitely created schemes and did this and did that, and I felt like I was pretty good. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe in retrospect, if I went back in time, I was like, wow, it was awful this. But there is it's almost like the bigger the con, the more the fucked up thing you're able to do and get away with, the more of the like, look at me, like there is a little bit of a like, yeah, because I'm just that much of a cool ass operator, like I can
Right.
do what the fuck I want kind of deal. Like I can kind of I mean, obviously we're talking about a whole other level, but at the end of the
Right.
day, it is
Right.
like a, you know, between like a maybe a little bit of a devious, perhaps a little dabbling in the area of wrong, as opposed to, I don't know, murdering children and doing all sorts of depraved things to them. But at its core, there is like that impish, I don't know, drive, I guess. So, and
Well,
I
and don't
guess, yeah.
forget, I mean, he is embracing the ideas of Satanism and everything,
Mhm.
and being uh intelligent, and not just intelligent, but more intelligent
Yeah.
than everyone else is actually like a goal of Satanists.
Yeah, which I get too, because it is like, this is actually why like I kind of am like, not to go into political theory, I somewhat reject the idea of like political action because it
Right.
requires some larger plan. And it is
Right.
like, and it's funny too, like part of me that like drive, I guess I've kind of big brained in my opinion to the point where you're like, because what Satanists I think are doing and what you're driving is the idea of that like it requires such a level of control, intelligence, charisma, yada yada yada, to be able to manipulate people and, in essence, reality, I guess, sort of, because reality is perception, to this level. It is like
Right.
this ultimate kind of like high of like, look how fucking awesome I am. But at
Hmm.
the same time, like, is to get to like the political thing, it's like, but you aren't.
Right. Well, and it's weird
Like
too
everyone
because
thinks they can manipulate everything, but there's always
right.
that one little thing that you can't account for. No matter how you can be Ozymandias from fucking Watchmen, and like it doesn't matter. Like there's
Right.
going to be, you will fail, and like it's like, if anything, I think that's like maybe a thing for men or anyone generally, is like your ego will get you.
Right.
Be careful, because like, but anyway, so that's, I guess, at the end, like the big brain, if this is almost like a stupid big brain in my opinion, where you're like, look how fucking cool I am because I can do all these things. You're like, yeah, maybe. I guess Eccles in the end, maybe, who knows? Maybe he does get
Right.
away with it or whatever. But generally speaking, I guess to be fair, like if you're the one who got away with it, I guess okay, you're kind of correct. But like, I don't know. I think you're playing a dangerous game, a very dangerous game, and I don't
So
think you're necessarily as smooth as they think they are sometimes. So it's one of these
you're not a
days, it's not going
smooth
to work, you know?
operator.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
here's what I think like kind of generally happened is that first of all, the murders themselves were not premeditated, but murder, it like the idea of committing murder was premeditated. But these specific murders of these boys, like it was kind of a it was a what the hell do they call it? A crime of not a crime of passion, but a like wrong place, wrong time kind of a
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's like the word just escaped me, but nonetheless,
Crime of opportunity.
thank you. Yes. So it was like, and mind you, all three boys were getting high, drinking all day. Um, Damien is like the leader of the group. And you just have to watch any video for 10 seconds to see how clear that is. Plus, I mean, I've seen that dynamic with people before. I'm sure most everyone has. It's a pretty common dynamic. It doesn't get to this point usually, but it's not uncommon. But what I think is happening here, because I mean, I can keep going, and we will at some point. Damien is fucking with the police at this point. I mean, he says some of the most awful things. And it's not just because okay, so he said some bad things. No, no, no. It's like to the point, it's like, I mean, this is him going to court. Allegedly, he is innocent of murdering three boys. This is him walking into the courthouse. That's him sending the one finger salute to the families of the boys. And this just continues on and on and on. So it's like when I first heard of this, I got offended because it was like I'm one of these weirdos that wear band t-shirts and listens to heavy metal. This could happen to me. Then I found out how big of an asshole he was. And it's like, okay, I might have, wore black. I'm wearing black now. Still listen to heavy metal almost every day. I was never that big of an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, it's him paired with everything else. So just a couple of highlighted things that I have. We won't go through all of it, but so at this point, let's see, this is okay. So to finish off May 9th, because this is actually kind of important why we're here. So Damien also said that the penis was a symbol of power in Wicca, and that the number 3 was, significant. The person that committed this would feel good. Damien also said that the more innocent the victim, the more power he would receive. Now, the next day he gets called in. So this is May 10th, just very next day. At this point, Damien was not considered to be a suspect, and only general knowledge questions were being asked. Damien was very calm and even cold as he answered the questions concerning his background and any knowledge he may have had concerning the homicide. Damien stated he knew a member of a white witch group, whatever the fuck that is, that he referred to as Wicca, and then goes into like all of his like beliefs, but he changes his beliefs on this all the time. Although pretty much through this incident, he sticks with Wicca, although I don't believe he uses that now. Let's see. So he's basically fucking with them all the way through the interrogation. This is the second day in a row that he's been brought into the police station to be questioned. They basically get him into a corner because of the things that he keeps saying. However, like stated before, he is not an official suspect. So, I mean, technically, he's an adult. He doesn't need his parent. He can walk out at any time, but he doesn't. Of course he fucking doesn't. Damien stated that Steve Jones from the Juvenile Authority had been by to see him a day or two before. This is him trying to blame his knowledge of the urination on a juvenile authority police officer. So because Damien's in trouble all the time because he's a piece of shit, this juvenile authority officer, Steve Jones, which his name doesn't come up a lot, but Damien's telling these two detectives like, oh yeah, Steve came by and
Stephen Jones, real quick, is a defense attorney for Timothy McVeigh, but I'm assuming they're different people.
I don't know. It's pretty close in the same area.
Maybe that'd be a wild connection, but yeah, I'll have to look into that later. It seems like probably a common name, but
right. But I mean, so that's the other thing that Damien does is he tries to blame other people and stuff, but he always gets caught in lies, constantly being caught in lies. Okay, so here's some incriminating statements on May 10th. So he was in the police station. Quote, they were cut up, being asked about the boys. Another one, let's see. One of the boys may have been cut more than the others. How would he know that? Because
that's weird.
The detail, it's not really relevant, but
I mean, it's a weird thing to say. I mean, not that I'm his lawyer, but I guess you could say that like technically just, you would assume one is more or less than the rest because just like
one boy bled to death. Yeah. 2 boys drowned. The boy that bled to death had his genitals removed and degloved. So he bled to death before he was stuck into the water, and Damien knew about that on the 10th. That's as early as we know that Damien knew about it. This was not released to the public. I assume this probably wasn't even going around in police departments at this point. because the medical examiner didn't even know. They didn't get done with the medical examination all the way until like the 13th or the 14th. So, I mean, it's just crazy. Now, we'll wrap up on some of this stuff so I don't keep you too long. Let's see. They may have drowned, one of his other shitty statements. Let's see. So this is post polygraph, which I don't know about you, but I don't like lean super heavy on polygraph tests.
Yeah, I generally kind of almost just in one ear and out the other, like regardless. Like even if it's it really depends. Like I don't know. It really depends on the situation, but generally it's like even if it's confirming my own, I don't know. I don't really make anything of them. It's kind of I try not to allow it to color my thinking too much.
Right.
I guess if it's like maybe the tiniest bit of an indication one way or the other, I might put some stock into it. But yeah, it very much is situational.
So all three boys failed them.
That's a little bit more of a stronger situation, like I'm saying now.
Right. So here's some statements that Damien made after he failed his polygraph, by the way. Quote, the killer probably urinated in one of the boys' mouths. Just blatantly said that. When asked what he feared, one of the I believe Officer Ridge asked him, what do you fear? Damien said, the electric chair. Why would you say that?
Yeah.
That's weird. One of the last statements he made after that, the killer would probably feel powerful and think it was funny. I don't know. That's just kind of a weird thing. Now,
very much so. Yeah.
Second to last thing, Damien, to this day, has never had a solid alibi. Not one. He's tried. He's had many. He's had several. All of them fall through every single time. So version 1, May 9th, his father picked him up around 6 p.m. Version 2, and this was told on May 10th, mother picked him up before 3 p.m. During the trial, admitted under oath he fabricated phone calls because one of the alibis was that I was at home talking to my girlfriends on the phone all night. During the trial, while he was on the stand, he admitted to making it up. And then witnesses saw him following the victims the day of the murders. So, and like I said, even to this day, there has never been a reliable alibi for anything. And he keeps trying. And he'll try again, I'm sure. I think this is probably a good place to end on it. Mm-hmm. So, physical evidence summary. This is something I kind of put together myself. One of the very common things that you will hear from people who say that these monsters are innocent is that there was no physical evidence. That's a bold-faced lie. They are lying to you. So, here's a collection, just briefly what I found today going through documents. Blood on Damien's necklace. It was a necklace that was shaped like a battle axe, and the blood was the same blood type as Stevie Branch's. More testing was never done on that. I mean, once again, 1993. Let's see, blood on Jessie Misskelley's clothing, type O. Jessie and Michael Moore, both are type O. So there were fibers from defendants' homes on victims' clothing. So one of the big things that proponents will do is they will point to one of the stepdads, Terry Branch, and say, well, we found one of your beard hairs on one of the shoelaces used to tie up the boy. It's like, yeah, the little kid lives with him. Like, And then they ran a DNA sequence on the hair itself. And I mean, they confirmed that it could be from him, but based upon how DNA works, that could also been 30 million other people. So it's like, yeah, it could have been him. So you can't rule him out, like officially, but you also can't rule out 30 million other people. So, like, when people want to lean on the DNA evidence thing, it's like, it's good in specific cases, but it's not a catch-all. It's just not. It's not the way that it works. Life isn't TV. You know, there's so much more to it. But there were fibers from the three older boys found on the clothing of the three victims. Now there was a knife that was found. We can talk about whether we want to be able to like show certain things or not later, but there were, in the autopsy photos, there were marks on all three of the boys' face. The people who claim innocence actually tried to say it's animal bites. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and we'll go over that next episode. Why that's stupid? It's literally retarded.
I mean, apparently you haven't heard about the boys in the track story where the one doctor who
yeah, that's
with
right.
where the head came off, and
right.
Technically, it was a separate case, but that was like he had a reputation for making up some crazy shit.
You know, that actually is not that far from where this happened. I mean, Mena, Arkansas area, you know, I think it's less than 60 miles.
Yeah, is this West Tennessee? So
no, this is Arkansas.
No. Well, Memphis. This is Memphis, Tennessee. This
West Memphis.
So
the boys on the tracks.
Yeah, well, the Arkansas is boys and tracks, and this is, so you're talking about these two things.
West Memphis is Arkansas.
Oh, it's Arkansas? I thought it was part of Tennessee. Okay, yeah, I got my geography all screwed up. Okay,
no, it's on the other side of the river.
Oh, so that's an important context.
Right. In fact, I'll bring it up next time, but I do have, I don't know if you've seen the Vegas shooting map, but I have one for the West Memphis 3 too that shows kind of the layout and stuff. So on the boys, there was a bunch of, you know, experts that say animal bites. No, that's wrong. What does match up perfectly is like those 1980s rubber gripped survival knives. Because when you match up the butt of the knife to the wounds on the faces of the boys, all three of them, it matches perfectly. Well, the police actually ended up diving behind Jason Baldwin's house and finding the knife. In fact, I think I have a picture of it somewhere. Oh, well, there's them diving, finding it. This is Damien's house. Oh, that's one of the footprints that they actually found. I was going to put these in order. There's the knife. Just haven't had a chance. But so the knife was found behind Jason's trailer, and somewhere there's a video of Jason's mom freaking the fuck out when that knife was found.
Now, those trailers, were those butted up to the spot where the bodies were found? Because I saw, we were looking at that photo before, we saw that they caught the truck wash, and behind it looks like houses, and I couldn't really make out those are trailers. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that would make sense.
Buildings.
So those are apartments, because it would make sense if it was nearby, if it was a nearby wooded area that they like walked to or something near a trailer park or whatever, because that's why I assumed that's what it was. So
right, yeah.
So, and then I was wondering perhaps if maybe the water, because you said the knife was found in water. I mean, there's a body of water right there off the side. So next, obviously there's a stream, but there's also that little, I'm assuming it's some sort of retention pond or something behind that truck wash.
So the knife was found in, I guess, the lake behind Jason Baldwin's house, which Jason Baldwin lived quite a ways away from this particular area.
Oh, well, that makes it even more. Because I was trying to drive it, like maybe they're referring to with all these things being jumbled together. Right. I mean, to be fair, maybe it's like, oh, this is by, but you're like, yeah, but like that's also by the crime scene or whatever.
Right.
But now if you're talking about like a separate location way away and All right, looking a little more shady.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was blue candle wax found on one of the victim's shirts, and it perfectly matched one of the candles taken in the first search of Damien's house. There are pictures of it. I can pull those up next episode. Also, pictures of the search warrant. I'll show you the amount of documentation that this case has. Like, when I first found this website, it gave me a panic attack because of how much there was. I was also happy at the same time because I didn't have to keep going to website, but it's incredibly overwhelming. So it's very thorough. But the very same blue candle wax found in Damien's bedroom was also found on the clothing of one of the victims. Once again, that by itself, not that big of a deal. That plus everything else is a very common thing throughout this case. Let's see. DNA on shoelace. Couldn't exclude Damien. We'll get more into the specifics of this later. I've actually got some slides to show for this. The DNA on the shoelace that they tried to blame on the stepdad actually includes a DNA marker that the stepdad does not have, but Damien does. So we'll have to look at the slides later on, but the boy, the buyer's boy, had 10 and 12 markers, DNA markers in this particular sequence. And so did, they tested somebody else, but when they tested Damien, they found he had 12 and 13. When they tested the clothing off of the buyer's boy, they found 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's like basically stating, and it was the three boys who got this tested. They demanded it. It was like in 2011 or 2007. So it was the three boys that wanted this testing. But when the testing came back, it was more damning that they were involved in the first place. So they actually kept it hid for quite a while. It's actually more impressive when you actually look at the slides and stuff. A couple more here real quick. The luminol patterns matched Jesse's cleanup description that he gave in his first confession, which there were details in his first confession that the only way to have known those details were having been there, period. There was lots of things he got wrong, but at the same time, the very first confession, he's trying to distance himself. He doesn't want to be anywhere near this, which is why when he's talking about, being there for the crimes, he said as soon as Damien cut into the first boy, he said he left, because then that shows like, oh, that's like too much. I was okay with roughing him up and, force feeding him booze or whatever, but now you're stabbing him in the dick. I'm out of here. It's like some weird rationalization in the mind of somebody that because they're speaking to authority, the authority figure will be like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Because as Jesse continues to confess, which he does even against the wishes of his lawyer, even against the wishes of his parents, everyone tells him stop confessing, but he just keeps doing it. There's 7 in total. Every single one gets more accurate. So that's just like the craziest thing ever. The shoelace evidence we already went over. Oh wait, there were shoelaces from one offender, and Jason actually relaced his boots with the shoelaces from one of the boys that they murdered.
Oh,
what the fuck? And then lastly, the sticks and branches that the 3 men used to kill the boys were found. So because that was one of the traumatic injuries, was the blunt force trauma, which is how the attack started. They were all smacked over the head, and those were found. So and it was found in the position, and they looked exactly how Jesse described them in his first confession. So I think maybe this will give you kind of an idea. It scratched the surface of like, there's so much information here. And I do not believe that if people actually have a genuine understanding of how this timeline works, how everything came about, the statements made, it just, you put everything together. I don't understand how somebody could look at these three murderers and claim that they're innocent. I genuinely don't. And I don't know how many episodes we'll plan on doing. I will do as many as you want. I will break down anything. Honestly, I find this fascinating, and kind of feel like I'm doing a service if I can help somebody else understand, because this is the biggest pain in the ass, and I've got the time to do it.
Well, hell yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to formulate a part 2, figure out some different angles to dig into, or maybe even multiples. I'm totally open to it. But
Right.
with that, I mean, we've kind of, I think, at least covered the basics for a 101 type thing. I totally get why people are so interested in this story now, and it is like a lot. So I also totally get why it is for people jumping in. Like, it isn't, you know, with people talking past you, you're kind of like, what? You missed a lot, but it is kind of a big deal. But with that, Jacob, let people know where they can find you at. We'll get out of here. I gotta get to bed. I'll see you tomorrow on Already Dead,
Yes.
our call-in show. So, but yeah, let them know where they can find you at.
Yeah, the best place you can find me is actually, I forgot what it is. I actually have a master link. I've been trying to get this together for a while. It is allmylinks.com/rise to liberty. So allmylinks.com/rise to liberty, all one word. And it's my master link. It will pull up every social platform. It will pull up all my donation options, all of my traditional social media, audio platforms, contact information. There's going to be all sorts of fun stuff on there eventually, because you can do like all sorts of like bonus stuff on there. But if you don't want to go through the trouble, Substack, Twitter, Telegram, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, anywhere that you can find audio podcast, anywhere Rise to Liberty, or you can find me every Tuesday producing Already Dead. And just real quick, so I am doing this West Memphis 3 series on my channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, exclusive. I'm actually making some documents in order to pair with the content I'm making, which I would be more than willing to give you copies of so you can attach to this. But it's going to be like timeline breakdowns. There's going to be like relationship maps, like all sorts of stuff, because this is something that people need like visuals with. And I'm just going to do it free of charge, but there's just so much to get through. And honestly, I think the only way that people can, arm themselves correctly is to be able to have as much digestible information as possible. And honestly, it's something that I need to also help understand this case. So if I can help somebody else out, I'll totally give away this for free. Last note real quick, Abomination by William Ramsey. Get a copy of it. You won't regret it.
Hell yeah. And for those who want to support what I'm doing over here, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on Rumble, on YouTube, all the audio podcatchers. You can find it on Twitter as well, at Tower Gang Jose is where you can find that at. If you want to support the show in the best way you can, that's with money over at patreon.com/nowayjose2020. We actually got a QR code right up there if you want to do that, if you prefer that method. And the low level of $2, you get a whole access of different, or a whole host of different perks. You get access to early episodes. I do about 1 to 2 of those a week. Try to keep about 4 behind the paywall at any given time. You also get access to the ad-free RSS feed, and you get access to the Telegram and the pre-show, post-show, and video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I also give a big shout-out to my sponsors, which is the highest level of my Patreon. Is a big thank you for their support. I have my previous co-host on Tower Gang, at Learner Toad, also at Abrogate D's, at ZOVRCK, at _Infinite Zeal, Tim Tull, at Jolly and Klebo, big fan of the show, Torn May, at Wayne Tackless, 1-800-CAR for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Winograd of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast. With that, guys, we're going to get out of here. Love you all. We will see you on the next show. Bye-bye.